Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Lal-ain and welcome to Lal-ain's Diary. Today we have a really wonderful guest whose name is Lee Weissman. Lee Weissman has been living in California for 30 years. Now he lives in Washington DC since 6 years. He has been teaching religious studies for more than 25 years in Jewish school. Students of age group like 14 to 18 years old. Well, maybe in simple words, let's say teens. Yeah, maybe teens. He did his PhD in South Asian Studies and visited India. He speaks Tamil as well. And now, let's welcome our honorable guest, Mr. Lee.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me.
Hello. It's a really great pleasure to have you in my show.
The pleasure is mine.
The start of the show, I give a little introduction of you. So, is there anything that I missed in your introduction?
No, actually, I'll just maybe add a little bit. So as you said, I'm a teacher, and you're right, I'm a teacher of high school students for many years, and I've lived in California, and I'm actually just in Washington D.C. for a short time so far. I'm actually thinking about moving here. I came here during the COVID crisis to be with my family, and my daughter is also here in Washington D.C. So the rest you got right.
Okay, then that is great. So, first of all, I would like to ask you that could you tell us something about your childhood?
Sure. I grew up in Philadelphia, which is, if you know in geography of America, it's on the East Coast. It's just south of New York and north of Washington, D.C. And I grew up in kind of the suburbs just outside the city in Philadelphia. As a kid, I was very interested in science and nature. My nickname was in summer camp was Nature Boy. I can't believe I just told everybody that, but that's true. I always liked nature a lot, and I think probably the biggest thing that happened to me when I was a kid was when I was a teenager. A friend of my sister's gave me a list of 100 books and told me that if I read those 100 books, I would become an educated person. I don't think I actually made it through those 100 books, but I tried. And that was kind of the beginning for me of what I would call like a lifetime of self-education. So maybe that was, so I think I was always a kid who liked to study and to learn and to read and explore the world. So that's who I was as a kid.
Okay, that is great. I'm a little bit surprised to know that your friends gave you the challenge to read how many books again?
100 books.
100 books. So, do you remember how many you tried reading?
I think I made it through almost all the list. I think I'm sure I was like up to at least 80. I'm pretty sure I was at least 80. Yeah, I worked really hard on it. I tried very hard to do the reading.
Wow, that is so surprising and great. Because if some people have a really great interest in books, they could really read 100 books in no time. It wouldn't be so hard for them. So that was a really great challenge, I may say.
It was. So I've often thought that it would be kind of fun to make up my own list. Like if I were to do it now, like what would my list look like of 100 books? Maybe I'll do that one day.
Okay. And remember in the previous show, when I had an interview with Shaba Shams, and you might have also seen the post that I posted that I was so grateful and delighted that she wore a T-shirt printed peanuts on it, and like
Ah,
it
yeah.
was the best gift ever for me. So then you asked that if I was a peanut fan, and then I told you then yeah, I'm a peanut fan. So anything you would like to add in it? Because I thought that you had a really great information from the backstory of the Peanuts cartoon.
Yeah, so I told you, my father was in the business of making peanuts things, right? They made notebooks and dolls, all sorts of things. And my father was close with Sparky. That's what they called Charles Schultz, who was the man who invented, peanuts, and he drew it. And one of the things that I shared with you is that he was a very religious person. He was a very thoughtful person, a very religious person. And even though he was a Christian, he was very close to a rabbi. In fact, in his house, he had an apartment for this rabbi. And they were very, very close to each other. The rabbi actually wrote several books, and he asked if he could use peanuts to illustrate the books, and he did that. And one of the things I loved as a kid, obviously because my father was, peanuts was everywhere, right? So because of that, I read a lot of the cartoons, and some of them are so brilliant. They're so psychologically smart. He really was a very wise person, and there's a lot of wisdom. There's actually a book called "The Gospel According to Peanuts," and it's a book about life and about God and about religion, and it's actually all illustrated with peanuts. And this rabbi has several books which are also illustrated with cartoons from peanuts. So, wisdom. One of the things I learned from those 100 books is that wisdom is found in lots of different places. Right? Sometimes we think we have to look in big, fat, wise books to find wisdom, or we have to look for people with big, long beards, right, to teach us wisdom. But it's not true. Really, wisdom is in all sorts of places, and it's packaged in different ways. So those cartoons are full of really brilliant things, and that you can learn from them. So I personally I would love to
Wow,
be like Snoopy. If I could be like anybody, it would be like Snoopy. Right? Relaxed, calm, dance. That would be good.
that is really the great behind the story of the cartoon comic Peanuts. I've been really fond of these comics named Charlie Brown and his pet Peanuts, and there were many other different characters as well. And I've been seeing this comic since I was, only 11. Yeah, maybe 11. And I was a big fan of these comics, but I didn't know who was the creator or the director of these comics. And now you told me that it was Charles. Charles, what was the whole name?
Charles Schultz, that's his name.
Yeah, Charles Schultz. And did you feel kind of like happy from the inside that your father knew Charles Schultz, who was the creator of the Charlie Brown comic series?
Hmm. Yeah, he said he was a very, very nice man also. He was known, among the people who worked with him, he was known to be a very, very sweet person. Also a very generous person. He gave to a lot of charities and things like that. But also very simple. He didn't live, obviously that was a very successful, he made lots and lots and lots and lots of money. But he lived very simply, and he was a very ordinary person. People say he was a very ordinary person. So, you know, and you see when you read the comics, you see that his intelligence and his sensitivity and his humanity come through in the comics, which is good.
Wow. Okay. This was good. Really, you gave me a lot of information about the whole series of Charlie Brown Peanuts. Okay, now I would like to ask you something about your profession. Like, how was your teaching life? It's been like more than 25 years to teach religion and history. I must say it would be an amazing experience, right? So, would you like to share some interesting incidents, or was there any student who taught you something?
I think every student taught me something. Um, I mean, that's, I think, one of the most beautiful things about teaching is that every single student teaches you something. And really, my greatest teachers over the years have been my students. You know, one of the things that's wonderful about teaching young people is that it keeps you from growing too old. You know, if you're around only older people all the time, then you have a tendency to grow old. Meaning to say, your mind becomes a little older. You begin very set in the ways that you think. But when you talk to young people, and especially teenagers, you start to think a little bit fresher. Even language. I sometimes, because I talk to younger people all the time, and I kind of know how younger people talk, I find myself oftentimes talking more like a teenager than like somebody my age. And that's good. I mean, because it's fresher, and it's nice to see the world through fresh eyes. My students would see the world, you know, um, with a lot more possibility. They're looking forward instead of backward. Sometimes when you're talking to older people, they're always looking backwards. They're always talking about, oh, back in the old days, how was it? Oh, I remember when. Well, that's okay, and that's good, and there's a place for that, and I like that. But then there's something very nice about talking about the future, right? And talking about what the world will be like, and how we make the world, uh, you know, how we change the world and make it better. And I love those conversations with my students. Um, so I learned something from. I hope I learned something from everybody I meet. Honestly, I would love to learn something from everybody I meet, but certainly from my students, I learned a lot. And it's challenging. My first time I taught, my first day of teaching, I cried. I cried. They made me cry. They were so bad, so bad. They were my. I was teaching. I taught a group of boys, and they were horrible, horrible. If any of them are out there, you know who you are. But they were just terrible, and they made me cry. And I went home, and I walked out of the classroom, and I just was weeping. Um, and and it was so hard to go back the next day because, like, oh my god, they're eating me alive. Like they're killing me. Um, but eventually, I kind of learned how to control the classroom, and I learned how to be a little bit stronger, and everything worked out. Everything worked out okay. Now, very rarely do they make me cry. Every once in a while, like once a year, I would say my students make me cry. Um,
Oh, that is, very much shocking. You you cried.
if you ask any teacher. Okay, so here's what you do. Ask your teachers if they cried during their first year of teaching, and all of them will tell you they did. Every single teacher I know, they cried during their first year of teaching.
Oh, I didn't know that it was so hard for teachers to start their teaching career.
Yeah,
Oh,
it takes a while before you learn how to manage the classroom, and students are running around doing this and that, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's very hard. Um,
okay. So, as you were telling about your teaching profession, someone is asking in the comment section you a question. Nadine Solangi, how you came in teaching field?
I a little bit by accident. I was teaching. I was teaching. I had done some teaching when I was in graduate school, but it was teaching adults, it was teaching older people. And a friend of mine was a teacher, and he was leaving his job, and he just kind of asked me, would you, um, you know, would you like to, do you think you could teach? And I thought, well, yeah, I think I could teach. I mean, I'm good at learning, I'm good at studying, so I should be good at teaching. So that's how I came into it, and I really liked it. Um, and also, I think I don't know. I think I'm a natural teacher. I mean, some people are, you know, I think I have a kind of natural sort of talent for it. I always sort of found myself in teaching roles, so that's kind of how I came to it. I love
Now that
somebody,
is a great answer.
I love somebody's comment that every teacher has cried, but mostly they don't like to talk about it. That's true. Yeah, that's right. They don't like to talk about it. It's true. I think we don't talk about it, but of course, it's really hard, and it can be very challenging.
Yeah, the person who commented, Lugnami, is also a teacher. She is
Yeah,
also a teacher. That's why. That's why she
I told you. Ask any
wants to
teacher. They'll all tell you. It's the secret we all keep. We don't tell you, but
I also
honestly,
didn't know about it. It
yes.
was it was just like a secret opened now.
There you go.
I
Now
don't
you know.
Yeah, now I know. I didn't know about it before. Yeah, it's a little bit shocking that teachers cried in their first year of teaching. Oh, I may ask this question to my teacher as well.
You should. But it's
Okay,
also
so yes.
but also, I think also every teacher goes goes home and brags about their students. Like when my students would come up with something like brilliant in class, I would go home and I would brag. I go, "Do you know what so and so said in class today? Oh my goodness, it's so amazing." Right? I mean, so that's also there. Um, I think that students don't know that we think of you like our own children, you know? I mean, and we take pride in you really like our own children. And if you don't do well, sometimes I have a student like who just isn't getting it. And it drives me crazy. I feel so terrible. Like I just want them to understand. I just want them to do well, and just like our own kids, just like we want our kids to do well, we also want our students to do well. And when they do well, we get very excited, and we come home and talk about them, about their, how smart they are and how wonderful they are. So there's also that. So there is sometimes, sad moments and difficult moments, but there are also very happy moments also.
So you have taught teens like 14 or 18 years old age group. Do you think that this is the right age for religious studies, or it should be from the very young age? Because
Well,
I've read somewhere that early years educators emphasis on the whole child development, and without religious or values, there is no completion of social development. Do you agree with that?
that's definitely definitely a good question. So I would say that you teach. I think you should start teaching at a much younger age, but there's a difference in the way that you teach. Obviously, part of teaching is knowing a little bit about child development, and so when it comes to teaching the facts, for example, kind of basic, kind of how would I say it? More concrete things. Little kids do very well with that. The beauty of teenagers is that the teenagers are into challenging reality, right? they're a little bit difficult, right? They're somewhere between childhood and adulthood. They're asking a lot of questions naturally. So there are conversations that you can have with a teenager that you just can't have with smaller children. So yes, I think it is important to start at a really young age. What's more important, I think, for religious for teaching religion when it comes to younger children is to model behavior. And I think we can't really depend on schools so much to do that. That's actually parents' job. But modeling behavior, letting kids see that you care, let kids see what you're doing, I think is really important. Especially with younger kids, certainly with teenagers too, but younger kids. Somebody asked, is it tough to teach religious subjects here, but most students have different sector religion? How do you manage in class? It's often very difficult. My kids, especially, I've been teaching, often come from very different backgrounds, but that's true in talking to human beings. Right now, I'm talking to all of you, and who knows where you're from, right? Some of you are from Pakistan, some of you are from the United States, some of you be from wherever you're from, and you come from different sects and different backgrounds and different experiences. And that's part of teaching also, is being able to communicate to different kinds of people at different kinds of levels. Somebody asked what my teaching style is. I try not to do this too much. I try not to talk too much. I try to listen more than I talk and to open discussions.
Okay,
there you are.
Sorry about the interruption, because there was some kind of Wi-Fi problem, and that's how I got disconnected.
No problem. I continued without you.
Okay, so did you define your answer for the questions that I've asked?
I did. I talked a little bit. I talked a little bit about that, and I answered a couple of the questions over on the comments. So.
Oh, so you also answered this question as well from Azama Umar.
Yes, I was just saying that one of the things as a teacher, I try not to talk too much, right? Because when I talk too much, my students fall asleep. You've been in classes, right? The teacher talks and talks and talks, and the kids just, right? They're falling asleep. They're bored, right? Even I, as a teacher, sometimes if I go to a lecture, right, and the person is talking and talking and talking and talking, and I just, I just lose it. I can't do it. So I try to ask questions. I try to tell stories. I try to show pictures. I try to do lots of different things so that students don't get too bored.
That is a really, great style of teaching, because these sleeping from children always happens in maths class. I always, I have been slept in maths classes because it was very tough to sit in math class.
Well, see, when it comes to math, I am, I'll tell you a story. So I was a terrible math student. I was a horrible math student, and I hated math, and I hated math teachers, and I just couldn't stand math. So I was an adult, and I was in graduate school, and there was a man sitting across from me eating breakfast in the dining hall. I introduced myself, and he introduced himself, and he said, "I am the best math teacher in Ireland." And then he said, "In fact, I am the best math teacher in the world." And I said to him, "Really? You're the best math teacher in the world?" He said, "Yes." I said, "You know what? There is no such thing as a good math teacher." I said, "I know math. Nobody can teach me math. Nobody. I'm too stupid for math." He says, No. I says, "I can teach you math." So I said to him, "What's one thing you want to learn in math?" I said, "Well, plane geometry. I named one thing of the many things I don't understand. So he said, okay, meet me tonight at the front door. Wear black. Okay. So I meet him at the front door, and he's dressed all in black. And I'm dressed all in black. And we go out into the night. And we go to a excuse me, we go to a construction site where they're building a building. And we go in, and there are all these bricks. And he says, okay, now move this brick here. Now move this brick here. And we start moving bricks around and building a wall. And as we're building the wall, he's explaining this concept in math that I didn't understand. And all of a sudden, the light goes on in my head. And it's like, oh my goodness, now I understand it. But I needed bricks to understand it. So, the problem, this is another secret. The problem with math teachers is that the only people who become math teachers are people who are good at math, right? So people who are naturally good at math become math teachers. So they don't understand why the rest of us don't understand math, because they just understand it. But this guy was a great teacher, and he was able to teach me math. So I think that a person who's willing to teach in an unusual way can teach anybody anything. That's my story.
Well, that is a really, amazing story. That you first didn't understand math, and then your math teacher, who said that he was the greatest math teacher in the whole world, just told you to pick up some bricks and telling you some concept, and then you immediately knew how the answer was explained. That is, really great. It's just like a magical miracle coming true.
True. And believe me understanding anything in math is a miracle.
Yeah, same here, because I still couldn't understand anything in math. Still, even though my teachers at school were, different teachers came, different teachers gone. There are always new teachers, and now after the pandemic, I hope, or maybe think, that there is also going to be another new math teacher. But still, I can, surely believingly say that I'm still not going to understand anything, because math is so mind twisting.
Well, now a lot of very great teachers put things on the internet. So you have Khan Academy and things like that, where you could go look on the internet and like great teachers are teaching. So maybe you can learn from them. That's
yeah, I saw that. But the main problem is there are many good, nice, and awesome math teachers who could teach me math. But the second problem stands that math is super boring. I don't find math very interesting.
I do too.
So where the problem starts. And
Yes.
then when I think that something is boring, I don't give attention to it. Like, what am I attracted to? I'm a music lover, and that's why the whole time I listen to music very much, and I know very much things about music. And when it comes to math, I know nothing, because I don't have an interest, because it's super boring. That's what happened, and that's where the problem starts. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, it's hard because one of the things that's very challenging as a teacher is to get a student to learn something they're not interested in. It's difficult. I mean, when I'm interested in something, and teachers forget this. So to all the teachers out there, remember that there are things that you are interested in, and there are things you're not interested in. And the things that we're interested in, we really learn a lot about them, and without any difficulty. If when I get interested in something, I happen to like biology, right? And if I get interested in something, I will read about it and understand it, and all on my own and with great ease, right? If you ask me something in mathematics, forget it, right? Because I'm just not interested. So that's, I think, a very big challenge. It's hard when something is boring to you, and the only thing you can do is if you can learn to apply it to something which is interesting, So for example, I liked learning about building buildings. I liked learning how to build a wall, right? And so the math was much easier to learn because it was connected to something that was interesting to me. So maybe that's one way to do it. But it's very difficult when things are not so interesting to us. That's why you can't judge a person by their grades in school, because oftentimes that just reflects the way their mind works or their interests, right? They're going to have an A. They're going to have great grades in music. Music is a good example because people who love music really love music. I have students who, like, in math, English, everything else, they're terrible, but in music, they are amazing. And they're in the music room every 2 minutes. They're in the music room. Every spare moment that they have, they're in the music room because they just love making music and they love listening to music. So if we're good educators, we're going to use that, right? And we're going to use that, and we're going to encourage that and help people kind of go the direction that they want to go. The good news is, as an adult, people rarely make you do a lot of things you don't want to do in terms of education. I mean, as an adult, you get a lot of choices, right? Nobody ever wakes me up in the morning and says, "Okay, Lee, you have to do math today." No, if I want to learn math, I'll learn math. If I don't, I don't. But it's hard being a kid. It's hard being a kid. Really hard.
Well, I'll say that it's, amazing being a kid. You could do whatever you want, but if you are the elder sibling, that is also where the problem starts. When you have, younger siblings, and then that's where the whole responsibility just builds upon it.
Well, I was very lucky. I'm the youngest child, so I'm my sister is 11 years older than I am. So I was almost like an only child. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. I got lucky.
Okay.
But it's nice having siblings, right?
Yes. You know that I was, very happy to have you as a guest on my show because you're an experienced teacher of teens. I have met many experienced teachers and many more experienced persons, but they are mostly early, or their students are very young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, whenever I think about peace, I think it's not possible without tolerance. And tolerance is a skill you have to learn. And this whole learning development should be from very beginning, means from very young age, day by day, bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think that's true, but I would take it a step beyond tolerance. The word tolerance means that we put up with something, right? Like, for example, if it's cold outside, right, and I go outside, I can tolerate the cold. I can put up with it, right? That's a very low level. I think we have to have a higher level, and that's appreciation. And that is like to look at other people and to see, I think from a very young age, and I think this is really the job of parents as much as schools, more than schools, is to give children an appreciation for the variety of human beings, right? For example, when you're in school, this is a very good example. You're in school, and there's one kid who's incredible at math, right? They just love math. And there's another kid who loves music, and there's another kid who learns to read at a very young age and loves books, right? As a teacher and as a parent, I should encourage my kid to appreciate that and go, wow, isn't it amazing? Like, in one room, we have such different kinds of people. We have people who we have people who like order, and people who like disorder, and we have people who like music, like people who like math, we have people who like literature, we have people who think in a very orderly way, and people who think in a wild way, right? We have people who are poetic, and we have people who are not, right? And and teach people and to appreciate that as a parent and as a teacher by modeling that, right? And so as a teacher, being in the classroom and going, wow, it's amazing the way you think, and it's amazing the way you think, and it's amazing the way you think. um, and that's really the beginning. I think that it's that anytime you're in a room with more than one person, you have the opportunity to appreciate that other person.
Yes, I'll totally agree with you, and that is, very well said. And you also wrote in your introduction that you love poetry. And is it right that you miss your days back in California, like go sit with your friends and hear some poetry collections? I've seen many haiku, Japanese poetry on your page. Well, would you like to tell something about it?
Yeah, I mean, I do miss California, and I do miss my friends, and I miss kind of my life there. Um, but at least I've had a lot of time to do some writing, and I've had written a lot of poetry, and I like to read poetry. I like to write poetry. So here, I don't have all my books with me, although I do have the internet, so I have a lot of things available to me. And I spent a lot of time writing poetry. Anybody, if you go to my Facebook page, Lee Weissman, W-E, spelled my name wrong, it's okay, Eissman. Um, and if you look at my page, you'll see all sorts of. There's my name. You'll see all sorts of poetry, most of which I've written, unless I say somebody else wrote it. But I love poetry. This is I did not write poetry for about 30 years. I stopped writing. I wrote poetry, then I stopped writing poetry, and then I started again. So just goes to show, you're never too old to change.
Okay, now is the name spelled right? Correct?
Almost. You have to put the I in front of the S.
Okay. Maybe I did it again a bit wrong. It is Weisman.
Yeah, it's
What is the correct
is Weissman.
Oh, so that is the correct spelling.
There you go.
Sorry if I spelled your name wrong, because I didn't know about it.
Don't worry.
So it's Weissman.
You got it.
Okay. That is, a very unique
Ta-da!
name.
There you got it.
Yeah, this name is very unique. Yeah. What is the meaning of the assignment? Okay, how is it spelled?
So it's actually a German. The name is a German name, and it means white man. It's not very white man. I have no idea where we got the name white man, but that's what it is.
That is, a really great meaning of your name, because your name is pretty unique.
Right.
Okay, so as I said before, that I saw, many haiku on your Facebook page. So can I share two of them? Because I've read many of them, and there were two haiku that were my favorite. Can I share it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the first haiku was written that wet leaves, broken twigs, the litter after the storm is all that remains. What can you explain about this haiku?
So that's a haiku, which is a kind of a very short form of poetry, And actually, it was just I was looking out the window after a storm. We just had a big storm, and I saw all the leaves there, and I was thinking that sometimes in life, sometimes in life, you go through a lot of things, right? Sometimes big storms in your life, right? Big troubles, and in the end, what's left? Maybe there's a little bit of the storm is over, it's quieted down, it stopped, and you just look and the world goes calm again, and there's just a few leaves left over, right? All that's left of the storm is a little bit of evidence, easily cleaned up, right? Nothing too terrible. So that's what I was thinking.
That is pretty, interesting because I read books, different types of, and that's when I came near to popularity pages, and that's where I learned that what is haiku.
Yeah,
Sometimes they write haiku when they are a bit sorry, and they write some paragraphs about it. Yeah, it's the same as poetry, maybe, right?
yeah, it's a very simple, nice form of poetry. Anybody can do them. They're very simple, but they have a nice flow to them. They're nice.
Okay, actually, I wanted to click this one comment that Lubnamin commented that the picture for that haiku is so real too. So,
Yes. Oh, good. I'm glad you liked that. Yes, that was actually what I was looking at as I was writing the haiku. So,
that is great. It is pretty interesting for about writing a haiku yourself. And the second haiku that I really, really liked was that if night had a song, it would be called. It would be the call of doves. Your modest snoring. What was the meaning of this?
yeah, it. Sometimes we hear somebody snore. And it's very comforting. If you have a family member or something like that, it's very comforting to hear somebody who you love snore, right? Like, imagine, your father or your mother is like laying on the couch, sleeping a little bit, right? And it's there's something about that's beautiful. Even that, when you have a love for somebody and affection for somebody, even their snoring is like the cooing of doves. It's a beautiful, comforting sound.
Okay, yeah, that could be cool. There is some kind of voice repetition. Okay, there was, but now it is solved. Yeah. So this haiku was a bit unique. And how did you came up with this idea of haiku?
Which one? The snoring?
Yeah, the second one.
I was thinking about it. My sister's house here um, is kind of. I don't know if you can see. Maybe you could. I'll show it to you. So, do you see the woods out there? Right.
Yes, that is
Right. So
beautiful.
there are all these different birds. So I've been spending a lot of time listening to birds. So I heard, and every day there are doves that come in the morning, and you can hear them. And so that's why I was thinking about it. So I take a
That
lot of
is great.
inspiration from nature.
Oh, so you're also fond of nature.
I'm very fond of nature.
Wow. Okay, and also I would like to ask you that few days back there was, I heard that Jewish people were celebrating a day of love. Yeah, day of love.
Yes.
Can you please tell me something about it? Because I didn't heard of it very much.
Yes. So Tu B'Av, this is the 15th of the month of Av. Back in the old days, was a day for people to make matches, like marriage matches. So in the old days, women would dress up in beautiful. The young women would dress up in beautiful white dresses, and they would sing and they would dance, and the young men would look, and they would try to figure out which one they wanted to marry. So that's kind of an ancient tradition. We don't do that anymore. But nowadays, people sort of think of that as kind of a day of love. It's not a major holiday or anything. It's just a nice day. Um,
Wow, that is, a really great day to be celebrated. A really great name for it as well. Day of Love. Like, great. Okay, so can you tell us now that how did you like coming to Lal-ain's Diary, this show?
it was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was great to talk to you, and I love that you're doing this. I think it's really nice that you're talking to different kinds of people and getting to know them and helping other people to get to know them. It's really a great project, and you're doing a great job. You should keep it up.
Thank you. It was also, a great conversation with you because I learned so much more with your answers according to my questions. Yeah, it was like really great. There were
Good.
many things that I learned today.
Okay, I'm so glad, and you should enjoy the rest of your night. And I hope that our audience enjoyed it. And if they have any questions, about anything, please ask me on Facebook. I'm happy to answer. And that's all. Thank you so much.
It was really great having you as a guest and really honorable as well. Thank you very much for joining, and it was a great session with you.
You're
Hope you
welcome.
will join us again.
I will.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for all of the audience who were watching and commenting on this video. I hope that you all liked this session with Lee Weissman, and it was really great. And I also hope that you all also learned something from the conversation today, because I also learned many things. Like, I can't even count how many things I learned, because I learned like really many things about Taiko, about teachers, and how what is the secret of the teaching method. And it was really great. He is a really such an experienced teacher and a really kind-hearted person. So I hope that you all loved this session as well. And thank you for commenting down your opinions in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and comment this video. Allah Hafiz, everyone.